Gun control is a serious issue in this country.
But it's not something that most high schoolers know about.
We need to inform Redwood students about this controversial topic.
By figuring out what Redwood's stance is on this issue.
We want to share our opinions.
That we need stricter gun control in this country by instituting strict background checks
And limitations on assault weapons.
for everyone who wants to buy a gun.
We need to prevent future school shootings.
By figuring out what's wrong with our country's gun control systems by comparing it to other country systems.
And we need Redwood students and staff to help.
Hi, we are trying to inform Redwood students about gun control, and I was wondering if I could get your opinion on this issue. First, I want to see how much you know. What percent of all suicides and what percent of all homicides in the U.S. do you think are caused by guns?
For suicides, I think 32% and homicides 15%.
I think about 60% of homicides are gun related and 70% of suicides.
I think that 30% of suicides are caused by guns and 50% of homicides are caused by guns.
40% suicides, 60% homicides.
Did you know 66.9% of all homicides in 2009 were caused by a gun? 50.7% of all suicides in 2006 were caused by a gun.
Have you ever heard of the Brady Bill?
No.
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 In 1993, President Bill Clinton passed a law called the Brady Bill that instituted federal background checks on people who wished to purchase handguns from a licensed seller. The law went into effect in 1994, but is not currently implemented in every state.
Now that you know what the Brady Bill is, do you think it had a positive impact on this country by instituting background checks on people who wanted to buy guns?
Yes.
How so?
It might have restricted some people with mental issues from getting guns.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I think it did.
Yes, because if I wanted to purchase a gun, I would get it because I don't have a history of violence. But if a criminal wanted to purchase a gun, they would probably be rejected.
Yes, the background checks would stop criminals from getting guns.
What would you say if I told you the Brady Bill stopped over 60,000 felons from buying guns during a 9-year period?
I would say that's pretty good. It's impressive.
Considering that there's over 300 million guns in the U.S., I don't think that's much. And I think that we have to have those background checks in every state for it to work.
I think that's a pretty impressive number, and it's definitely a good step toward stopping violence.
I think that is a good number and hopefully is improving every year.
What would you say if I told you that since the law was passed, there has been a slow, gradual decline in gun homicides and suicides in the U.S.?
It's good.
I think that's good.
I think it's a step in the right direction.
Some may say this decline is insignificant because it only saved a couple hundred lives per year. What is your stance on this?
I think that a life's a life and we should do anything to save at least one life.
Well, I don't think that's very good because hundreds of deaths happen all the time, and I don't think that's a very significant number.
But what if one of those couple hundred lives that was saved was your best friend or your mom? Wouldn't you want to do anything possible to save them? Everyone is important to someone.
I never really thought about that.
Do you believe that if we, as American citizens, can save even just a couple hundred lives per year, we have an obligation to try?
Yes, certainly.
Yes, I think for sure.
Now that you know how effective the Brady Bill was, do you believe we should institute similar gun control laws and implement the Brady Bill in every state?
Yes, and I think it's essential that we implement it in every state because if a criminal is really out to get someone, I think that they would be willing to travel to another state to buy guns, so I think it is required that we have it in every state.
Yes, and I think it would be effective in only every state.
We need to make it clear as Redwood students that we care about this issue. We need to raise awareness. Spread the word.
Pass on what you learned today to your friends, classmates, teachers, parents, and anyone else you know. Write a letter to your senator explaining your support for stricter gun control laws. Encourage your parents and friends to do the same. This is a big problem in America, but with your help, we can stop it. Every one of you can contribute in our mission to save lives, no matter how small the number. Act now before someone you know is hurt by gun violence.
Bye, 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 bye to all this dogged innocence. I can't pretend that I can tell you what is going to happen next or how to be. But you have no idea about me, do you?
All of these events came to one result: the death of school children by a firearm. However, one of these events prevented similar ones in the future. Unlike the shootings at Sandy Hook and Columbine, the shooting at Dunblane in 1996 led to an uproar of community members and parents rallying for stricter gun control, along with 700,000 others. The UK government had no option but to comply. Their gun control laws are some of the strictest in the world. To get a gun, you must have a background check by the police, you must be cleared by a doctor, and you must have 2 witnesses to testify to your good character. According to the popular God Bless America campaign, to date, the UK's annual death by firearm is 39. In the US, the annual death by firearm is 9,484. If a school shooting in the UK can lower the death rate by firearm, can we do the same? As some of you may have heard, a vocal minority of this country is in support of arming school administrators and teachers in response to the excessive gun violence in schools. What do high school students think of this idea? Would they feel comfortable knowing that all of their teachers are armed?
Actually should be armed, but there should be some kind of additional requirements for being a teacher, so that, because I have a few teachers currently, namely one, who I would prefer not to be in the possession of a firearm, and I think there should be specific testing to see how well teachers would be able to handle that responsibility, but it's also not the only solution. As Mr. Ryan said, in addition to being really funny, the book throwing idea is also an interesting solution.
I think schools will be safer with teachers being armed with guns as long as they're trained and capable of keeping it and preventing it from getting in the wrong hands.
I don't think that teachers and administrators should be armed ever, because they're not, when they're trained in college or whatever, they're not, I don't know, I don't trust my teachers with a gun. I would be scared.
I would not feel safe with teachers, administrators carrying weapons around campus. Perhaps, at the best case scenario, maybe our the people that watch over the school, not administrators, definitely not teachers, could get in the wrong hands, I think. But Levi or someone like that, perhaps, if watching people coming in from the parking lots and stuff like that, just to make sure. But even that would be a little bit dicey. Definitely not teachers. Too much stuff going on and way impossible to keep track of it, and it could get in the wrong hands and be a bad thing. So I would be very against that.
California is known as a fairly liberal region of the U.S., and according to the Brady campaign website, 61% of Californians are for gun control. Marin County is known as even more liberal, and therefore we tend to be more active about protesting our lax gun control laws. But what about Redwood? Would we be open to becoming more like the UK in our gun laws, or are we better off as we are now with essentially no gun control?
Well, considering the fact that there have been so many incidents with gun laws and incidents with guns and shootings, I think that our gun laws in the U.S. should definitely be a lot more strict than they are now, because there are so many, this is like my biased opinion, but they're pretty much psychopaths walking around with guns, like shooting people anywhere. The guy at Sandy Hook, he killed his mother, he killed one of his siblings, and then he killed 18 kids? 26 people, including the principal or one of the teachers, and that, like, I don't understand why it's all coming up now, but our laws definitely need to be changed so they're more strict, because, like, this needs to stop happening, and these people are completely harmless citizens, and they're only kids. They had a whole life ahead of them, and a completely crazy person just comes up and takes their life away. And that's completely ridiculous.
I believe that they should teach people when the right time is to use a gun, because there's no point in just teaching them how to use a gun if they're going to use it in the wrong way.
I personally don't have a problem with reverting our laws to the same as the UK, changing our laws to the UK's, or at least similar, but a lot of people do, and that's why we have to compromise, and that's why other solutions are more feasible.
Activists here in Marin County have been backing Obama's task force recommendations of closing loopholes in background checks, banning high-capacity magazines and military-style assault weapons, as well as hiring up to 1,000 school resource officers and mental health personnel, and improving mental health services, as well as ensuring that these services are covered by insurance. With this knowledge of gun control in mind, we want you as a Redwood High School student to take a stand for gun control and contact lawmakers such as Dianne Feinstein or Jerry Brown, showing your support for these task force recommendations. Don't be afraid to take a stand.
A special segment on gun control brought to you by Redwood TV. Less than 4 months ago, a tragedy shook the nation. Sandy Hook Elementary School, located in Connecticut, had become the victim of gun violence when shooter Adam Lanza took the lives of 20 children and 6 adults. This shooting has caused controversial gun debates throughout the nation. And we were curious to know what Redwood students and teachers thought.
Yes.
No.
No. C.
Yes, I'm for gun control because it will keep us safe in our community. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So are you for or against like high gun magazines?
So personally, my initial reaction would be, get rid of high capacity magazines. Initial reaction is no one needs that much ammo. I'm all for having stricter background checks and closing loopholes so that anytime you buy a gun, even if it's a private sale, you have to have a background check.
You have now heard from Redwood students and teachers who are in favor of gun control. If that hasn't convinced you that gun control is the right step, then maybe this will. Since 1980, 297 people have been killed in school shootings, making school no longer a safe place. Schools like Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Virginia Tech have already become the victims of gun violence, and each of these school shootings could have easily been prevented by simple measures like deeper background checks into people who are looking to buy guns and bans on assault rifles. If these gun measures had already been in place, hundreds of lives could have been saved. Instead, the opposite is happening. Since the Sandy Hook shooting, gun grab dramatically increased sales of nearly all firearms beyond any previous record. 10 million new firearms in the hands of citizens and a 1-year backlog of gun orders with manufacturers. Action needs to be taken now before more guns are in the hands of people who cause gun violence. Now you might be thinking, what can I do as a Redwood student when I'm not even of voting age? Well, there is plenty you can do without even voting. Send letters and emails to your senator asking for stricter gun control. Encourage your parents to vote for tighter gun control laws. We as Redwood students need to take a stand before Redwood High School becomes the next victim of gun violence. Think of the 297 parents who lost their kids. It is time we took a stand and put an end to gun violence.
I need some distraction.